All right, we're back for another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast. And today, we're a bit late, but we figured that it's time for us to talk about some of our favorite TV shows of 2022. Mm-hmm. We've got our honorable mentions, we've got our top 10, and then we've got On the Verge, which is pretty much the shows that we're sort of on the verge of not rewatching when the new season comes out. And we've got On the List, so shows that are on our radar, we just haven't had to get a chance around to really getting a chance to watch it for the most part. Mm-hmm. This was a little frustrating for me because I feel like there are shows where I'm like, this needs to be a top 5 if I want to like have some validity. You know what I mean? But then I'm like, it's in my top 10. Will people judge me if it's not higher? And then I kind of realize I don't really care.
Yeah, I was going to say, you told me not to care about any of that.
I know, but there's a couple where I'm like, I feel like this should be higher because I know how great it is. Okay. But for a number of reasons, it just didn't land the way that I saw it land for other people. It still landed, just not as high, you know what I mean? I guess we can start with honorable mentions, huh? Mm-hmm. You want to
go? Okay, I have a lot of honorable mentions, okay? 4 of them did come out last year. Of those 4, one of them I didn't finish. That's the only reason why it's not in my top 10. I feel like I don't deserve to put it there yet. And then I have 2 that didn't come out last year, but I just watched them last year.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Euphoria is an honorable mention because even though I have feelings about that show that are not always positive, Zendaya's performance in those last few episodes always brings me back. And I'm always like, because of her and the actress that plays her mom, because of them, I always feel like it deserves some recognition because the scenes with them are very well written, very well acted. Mm-hmm. So that's an honorable mention. Okay, Sex Lives of College Girls is also an honorable mention. I know that people have feelings about Mindy Kaling, okay? I understand.
She's been going viral for the wrong reasons.
The feelings are very valid. However, there's really nobody who's writing teenage girls right now like Mindy Kaling. You have shows like Euphoria, which like all those main characters are girls, but it's just a little bit over dramatic. Their situations are not necessarily reflective of, I think, the majority of teenagers. And then you have Gossip Girl, which we just won't discuss because it is not good. It just isn't good.
Yo, we fell off so bad.
It's not a good show, okay?
It's so disrespectful to the original one, which like everyone was watching that first Gossip Girl.
It's like Gossip Girl was like, the original Gossip Girl was like over the top, but it wasn't taking itself seriously. It was like, this is all just sort of a mess, and we know it's a mess, and we're just here for the ride. This new one, I feel like, doesn't handle that tone as well. I feel like Mindy Kaling writes teenage girls in a way that is realistic. Like the girls in Sex Lives of College Girls feel like real teenage girls. And she still they have fun. Her shows are kind of goofy, but like she still takes the characters kind of seriously. With that being said, all the criticism about that show is very, very valid, but I had a great time. And then my other honorable mentions are The Boys, because I really liked it, but I just couldn't put it in my top 10 above the other shows that are there. Intergalactic, that will be in my top 10, but I haven't finished it yet. That's the one, it's an animated rom-com series by Kid Cudi with Jessica Williams.
Oh, I heard about this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like animated in the same style as like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's very good. It's beautiful, but I haven't finished it, so I couldn't put it in my top 10.
I think I saw you watching it a couple of episodes. You did. It did look pretty good.
Then my other 2 are shows that they did not come out last year, but I watched them last year.
Gotcha.
Arcane, that is the best animated show I've ever seen. Gotcha. And then the other show is Friends.
I just want to say, I had been telling Esther to watch Friends for years, but she was trying to be on that wave, that pop culture wave of hating on Friends. And now look at you, singing the theme song along with me. Just a shame.
Listen, I didn't believe that a show that was beloved by that many white people could be that good. I'm sorry. I didn't think it could be that funny. I thought it was like the way that they talk about that show, I was just like, there's just no way that it's actually that good. And then you had all the stuff about Living Single and how it was like kind of a knockoff of Living Single, and it got all of this prestige and recognition that Living Single didn't get. And so I was sort of like boycotting it in my own way, you know?
They got the comedy got better and we talked a little bit about this with some of our other friends. Yeah, because if you were to watch the first, let's say, 6 or 7 episodes, I can see why people would stop watching and then just say, this isn't a good show. But I appreciate NBC allowing the show to give the characters time to grow into it. Because like around season 3 or 4, oh my God, I'm laughing throughout the rest of the series. Like it's
It is very good, I have to admit. Very begrudgingly, I will say. But it is very good. I laugh a lot.
We're probably watching it at a more appropriate time.
What do you mean?
Because when Friends started to get popular again, we were all in college. But Friends is really about your like post-college when you're trying to like finally be an adult.
It is a very, very accurate depiction of that phase of life, of like mid to late 20s, like the varying levels of like economic stability that your friend group has. Like some people are getting married, some people are having kids, some people are still on the dating apps. Like it's very accurate.
Some of those jokes don't land the same though.
Some of them don't.
But that's just kind of how it all is.
But I will say, like, comparing some of the humor on this show to, like, some of, like, similar jokes on other shows of the time, it's not as bad as I would have expected. Like, some of their humor about, like, they talk a lot about, like, you know, Ross's ex-wife and how she... First of all, there's a surprising amount of gay characters in this show for a show that came out in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s. And they're not handled the best, but they're not handled as bad as like other shows of that time, I would say. The fat jokes though are bad. Those are bad. About Monica.
With Monica, yeah. It is tough. I mean, like we saw it with Disney Plus when it first dropped, and then all of those older shows, they would put that, you know, disclaimer, basically like, y'all asked for all of this. Don't cancel us now because it didn't grow as well, it didn't age as well. Yeah. Okay, so is that all of your honorable mentions?
Yes, those are all of my honorable mentions.
So mine is a little bit different. I watched a lot of TV shows. My first one is Winning Time: The Rise of Lakers Dynasty.
Oh, I did see you watch that.
That one, I don't think it is like one of the best TV shows, and it's definitely exaggerated with the events. But golly, I was entertained as hell, yo.
Why did you say golly?
I was entertained as hell because it is. I don't know where golly came from. Please don't judge me on that. But the acting, it is so funny because there is so much absurdity around rich white people, and there's so much absurdity around the NBA almost didn't survive. And it's so weird for me to think about that. Yeah, what Magic and Larry Bird did for the NBA to help it expand in popularity, I don't think our newer generations understand that enough. I don't think I fully understood that enough. I started watching basketball like in the late 90s. So that's like later on as like MJ's getting older. So I didn't really watch Magic like at all. But this gives a lot of context. It's definitely exaggerated a lot. But you're like, oh, I'm in it. You give me a good sports TV show, and I'm all the way in.
What about that? What about Ballers on HBO?
We're going to leave that one alone. I think that one's more about agents, like sports agents.
I don't know. I just know it came out before Insecure.
There's another one on Netflix that I thought was like, I think it was a football.
I don't know.
Terrible. But the only sports shows that I think I would describe as like quality, Winning Time, and the second one, listen, call me cliche, I put Moon Knight in there.
Okay.
I really enjoyed Moon Knight.
Yeah, it was good.
Oscar Isaac was phenomenal.
He was very good.
And the second to last episode where
they were in the asylum.
Oh my gosh.
He showed all his like past.
I thought that was great.
He was very
His
good.
acting was really good. You see the background of what happens with his parents. And I thought that was very emotionally gripping for me. I also would argue it is one of the more underrated season finale episodes of MCU television. That one, I think sometimes they kind of lose me a bit with some of those episodes because you're just like, I don't know.
It starts to get,
Yeah, you know what I mean?
A lot of the more human aspects of it starts to get kind of lost.
Right, but to see him switching back between his personalities in those fight scenes, I thought was tough. And then when we meet Jake Lockley at the end, which I would have been a little disappointed if they didn't bring him in, and they did it, I was like, thank you. That was really good. The next one, we're probably going to disagree with this. I put Rings of Power in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of controversy around the show. They didn't have access to all the resources, and so they did. Something that doesn't feel canon. No, there's some copyright stuff and legal issues. Like the Silmarillion, they don't have access to that.
Yeah, they can't use everything.
It's just the first season. I want to see where it goes because I'm intrigued with how they ended things. I know a lot of people love Galadriel. She actually isn't the more interesting characters. I think I'm forgetting names right now, but the dwarves.
Harfoots?
No. The dwarves, are always my favorite people. Their humor is what was really pulling me in, and they feel the most grounded. They feel the most like personality-wise, they have the most to bring out. So every time they're on the screen, I was there with it. I know people aren't too crazy about like the big reveal with Sauron, which I understand, and it kind of feels like that's Gandalf, the wizard.
Didn't they tell us it was?
They said the translation for something meant wizard, but it didn't say Gandalf. But it's pretty heavily implied.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like that either because it made the world feel very small.
Oh.
Something that sometimes Star Wars has an issue with. I didn't mind it as much, but I thought the music was great. Cinematography was great. I mean, they had that big old budget, so like it looked great.
Yeah.
And it was back to being. It was nice to be back in that world. You've seen me like rewatching the Lord of the Rings. It's definitely not as good as that. You could argue Lord of the Rings is the only like perfect trilogy, in my opinion. I'm watching those movies. I'm bawling my eyes out. It's just. I
need to rewatch those.
I put 1899.
Oh, really?
Although it did get canceled, but the first few episodes I was very intrigued.
I do remember that. The first few episodes we were definitely like, whoa, wait.
It was losing me a little bit toward the end.
When they explained it got less
interesting. But the ride prior to that, I was like, this is really good. It reminded me of what it was like when I was watching Lost for the first time.
I can see that.
I put in Hacks. That is an HBO comedy show. I don't know if you've watched that one, but it's still really good.
But I've seen you watch it. I know it's good.
Very good. I also put in We Own This City. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that one. So this was...
Oh, no. The one about Baltimore.
Yes.
I didn't watch it.
It was directed by the same one who did The Wire.
Yeah.
David Simon, who I think is a literal genius.
Yeah.
The way he is able to articulate social commentary without it feeling forced and to tell a narrative story where it's like you took something as polarizing as structural and systemic racism and made it into a way where you make the argument so compelling it's hard to disagree, which is why The Wire doesn't really get labeled as like woke. You know what I mean?
That's true, yeah.
Because people understand that there's realism to it. I think it also came out
before the label, though.
I think you are less inclined to have social commentary called woke if the commentary also criticizes liberals and Democrats. Because even at that time, Baltimore was run by Democrats.
Yeah.
And so conservatives aren't going to complain about that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's true.
But still, valid criticisms towards some of those people in office. And the last one, I put Under the Banner of Heaven. It didn't make my top 10. Because, I mean, I watched a lot of TV shows. I know. But I had to mention it because I remember how invested I was in that show. Partly because you mentioned it too. I don't like how it was reminding me of our own denomination in certain lights. It was freaking me out just a little bit. Like they would use certain language, just like, no, I don't like that. It's creeping me out. All right, so those are our honorable mentions. Let's jump down to On the Verge. I can start this time, and then I'll throw it over to you. So I really only have two. The first one is Euphoria. Straight off the bat, I'm going for the gun. Because, Esther, that last season of Euphoria was dark.
It was rough. It was hard to watch.
That one... So, first and foremost, is it Cassie?
Yes.
They sexualized her a lot. It was a little weird at certain points, and I do remember reading articles where like the actor would go to the director and be like, "Hey, do we need?" And he would never.
I thought he would.
He would never push back and say
Yeah.
like, "No, we need to keep the nudity in there." But it's the initial ask that I feel
Yeah.
like. Why do they have to come and ask you to remove that nudity scene out? You don't always need that.
Yeah.
I could understand the commentary that they try to make, but I do think we do have to keep in mind that one, like these they still are in high school, and I don't know if we recognize like the psychological ramifications that could potentially have on people. This is the over sexualizing of young girls. That's like a huge concern, that in of itself. But I also felt like they took away shine from other characters. I thought Nate and his dad were probably some of the besides Rue, they had probably the most compelling. Like as his dad is trying to like wrestle through his own sexuality, like they
That
did
episode
something
where
with
they
him.
showed us the backstory on his dad was quite good.
That was
little
good.
flashback.
Yeah, but then there's other people where like you don't really hear from.
Like Jules, I feel like didn't get as much this season.
Some of their other friends you didn't hear from as much as well. And you know what's also weird? That black guy who played sports is just like not even in the show
'cause
anymore.
he went to college and he broke up with Cassie.
That's true, but like even it felt like they were trying to have some commentary on him, and now like there's really no other black guy on that show. Which
yeah.
come on, y'all. I mean like we have Rue, but like her story arc isn't about her race. It's about her addiction, and so you know what I mean. That I kind of had some issues with that. The episode where that ex-teacher, now drug dealer, was implying she might traffic her. That was it. Esther, I have never been so unsettled
That was
in my
very
life.
unsettling.
I had to pull up my phone and start just like pretend scrolling.
And what's crazy is in the trailer for the next season, I think there was a trailer or like a teaser or something. She is not even mentioned. It's like that storyline is just done.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Because they played it out as if like this was not someone who you could cross. And now she just steals the drugs and then it's over.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm nervous that we'll see a relapse. And I think that would be a terrible idea.
No, I think they have to let this be the last season and they have to let Rue recover, or Rue, right?
Yeah.
Recover and
I love
that be
Zendaya
done.
though.
She's so
I
good.
love Zendaya though.
She's just so good.
Give her all the awards because she's eating that up.
Yeah,
bro.
she is.
And the last one I'm on the verge with, you're going to be surprised by this. Because it's not really a TV show.
Okay.
The Walking Dead universe.
Oh. I mean,
After this
I
finale,
fully agree with you, but
After this finale, I don't know if I can keep going to keep up. Because there's still Fear of the Walking Dead.
All those
Supposedly,
spin-offs.
Rick and Michonne are getting their like limited series.
I thought it was a movie.
They changed some of those
Okay.
there. That's I'm really looking forward to. But then there's like a Negan and Maggie one. There's a Daryl one. The only thing where I'm not fully off, there's a hint that the walkers are evolving. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, you might reel me back in from that. They're gaining some intelligence.
Interesting.
Like you'd put stakes down and they wouldn't think to like try to climb over it. They're starting to climb over things now. Like little things like that. Even where like Negan was like, WTF, like he yelled that out on the show. And we were like, what? When did they learn to do that? And like the characters were also confused. So if they're trying to go more into that side, bring me back in. Because if you have a zombie show, like we said in our last episode, the world building cannot be understated as necessary.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So those are the only two that I have. Love to hear what you got.
I only have one On the Verge show,
Oh.
and it's Rings of Power. I'm so sorry, but I'm just not invested enough in the Lord of the Rings lore for this show to really bring me in. I didn't read the books, I didn't even try. And I haven't watched those movies since I was a kid. And I also didn't watch The Hobbits.
You didn't watch any of the Hobbits?
I don't think so. I think I maybe watched one.
I mean, they're not as good, but
I think I
I'm
watched
surprised.
one, and I think I was like, I don't think I need to see the others. Maybe I will eventually. So I don't know, the characters just weren't that interesting. Like, it just, I don't know, it wasn't grounded enough in anything that I truly, truly care about to make me be like, I can't wait for the next. Like, I never felt like that after watching the one episode. I never felt like, oh, I can't wait for the next one. I was like, every time that we were like, oh, well, let's watch it, I was like, yeah, okay. And that was really it. I don't think I'm done. I think I'll probably stick around for another season, see how I feel.
How they build it up.
But I'm just not pulled to it. And I think I'm just not a big enough Lord of the Rings fan.
It's interesting because people will say, well, it's just the first season, which I understand that. A first season should still be enough to pull you in. I think of like Heroes, that first season. Sign me up.
Phenomenal.
I'm all in that. So there's some other ones that we could probably think of. Obviously, Game of Thrones was like a really big one. Stranger Things, Westworld. You can have a slow burn.
Yeah.
It still needs to be compelling.
But it's still, yeah. And it's about the characters. And all those shows, it was the characters that were so compelling that brought you in. And like, I just feel like they're not doing that. I was very excited. I was like, okay, listen, I am very big on when they start putting like black people and women into sci-fi and fantasy, because that's, I've been watching those since I was a child.
Yeah.
I would like to feel seen. And I was excited to watch it because of that. And it didn't do it for me.
You know what's interesting? So Rotten Tomatoes critic score has it at an 85.
Okay.
The audience score is at a 38.
I think 38's a little low. I think some of that is probably racism.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's well done. I just don't know that it's like maybe well written. Like, I don't know if the story is as compelling and if the characters are as compelling as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So that's my only one. That's my only On the Verge. All the other shows that I watched last year, I'm pretty much planning to continue.
All right. So we've got on the list. I'll throw it over to you this time. What is on your on the list?
Everybody's going to judge me because I haven't watched these shows.
How many do you have?
It's just two. Atlanta is one. I haven't watched Atlanta since season 1. It's not that I don't want to. I do want to. And I know it's very good. I have no explanation for why I fell off and why I haven't really got back on. I just...
What are you doing?
I don't know. It just happened. It came back, and I feel like I didn't really know that it came back. And then it just like kept going. And then I kept getting further behind. And then I'm like excited to get to this season that people were currently watching at the time, because those are like all the episodes people were talking about. But I would first have to get through like the past seasons. And like, I don't know. Like I've told you before, like I watched the season premiere of season 2.
Just skip it at
the
this
alligator
point.
episode. I've watched it like 4 times.
You just gotta skip it at this point. You just go to Sparkles.
So I will watch it. I know for sure I'll watch it. I've already seen like some episodes from the later seasons, like because you watch them or because people talk about it so much.
Yeah.
Like the Teddy Perkins episode, I watched that. Like I just went ahead and watched that episode because like somebody came dressed as him to the awards show, and we thought it was Donald Glover, but then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So like I watched that, and then I accidentally saw the series finale. Apparently. It's not my fault that you were watching it.
I don't understand.
You were watching it in the living room.
What does that have to do about you?
And I was in the living room.
Oh my gosh. You're so enough.
So I will watch that show. And then the other show that is on my list is The Bear. I started the show when everybody was talking about it. But I thought it was more of like a comedy. So when I watched the first episode, I was like, oh, this is actually not quite what I thought it was.
What, you
Still
thought you
very
didn't have to pay
good.
attention?
But I just wasn't in the right headspace at the time to watch it. So I need to go back. I need to watch The Bear.
Damn, so no Better Call Saul on your on the list, huh?
No, I don't think I'm gonna watch that show. I have to be honest. Okay. I believe that it's good. I just have no real desire to watch it.
That's crazy.
It's the same thing with like Succession. Like I believe that show is very good. I know it is. Everybody talks about it, loves it. I really tried, and it's just the fact that like I can't root for any of the characters. It's making it really hard. I was like, they're just all bad. Like
it's still very good.
I know it is.
Yeah.
Maybe I will eventually with Succession, but Better Call Saul I probably won't. I don't know.
No, that's fair.
I think I also saw a lot of it.
Of what?
Of like when you were watching it, I saw like some like
pieces of it.
Yeah.
That's what it was with Severance. I would notice certain scenes that as I'm watching, I'm starting to connect the dots. There were still some moments where I was like kind of blown away, but other moments I'm like, oh, I see where they're going with that because I saw that when Esther was watching it. So some things didn't land as hard.
Oh yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. So on the list, pretty short. I'm gonna cave in. Apparently, everyone keeps telling me I need to watch Wednesday. It's just I just need to watch it. All of my coworkers, I felt like some real judgment from them when I was like, I haven't seen an episode. So I felt that deep into my core. I'm gonna watch it, y'all. And then Slow Horses.
That's the show that I forgot. That's the show that I watched that I forgot when I was making my list. Now my list is ruined. It's wrong.
Just tag it on with something else. So like your number 6 or 5 would have 2 spots. Who cares? It's our show.
Okay.
We can do whatever we want.
You're right. We make the rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So top 10. Let's say we do our 5 first, and then we jump to the top 5 afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. I can start.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10, I forgot The Boys.
Okay.
It's too good. And it is so irreverent, and they are all in with it. They don't like try to hide away from the irreverence at all the way down to the Twitter page for the official The Boys. The way that they just interact with fans, I think, is hilarious.
Their marketing is very, very
genius.
Good. Very good.
Genius.
Like they have the Vox. Is it Vox?
Yes.
That's the name of the company?
Vought, I think.
Vox is something else. They have the Vought like Twitter page. Yeah, they're and they have the Twitter page for that white man that she married after she broke up with him. Listen to me right now. If you can pull him, there is no reason for you to be dating that pasty, scrawny, conservative, racist man afterwards. That is insanity. I do not understand. Anyways, continue.
Their social commentary is elite. Elite. The things that they're able to tackle with the satire, it is so good. Mm-hmm. I think we've had other TV shows that try to do that to some degree. It just doesn't land as well. Yeah. I loved Soulja Boy. I don't like morally, ethically, no. But golly, he was entertaining as hell. He was entertaining as hell, man. And then, of course, got my boy. Oi. And number 9, I got to put in Ozark.
Okay. Oh, that's 9 for you.
Well, you feel like that's too low?
It's a little higher on mine. That's okay. Keep going.
I thought they ended it well. I think some people didn't like the fact that like it all just kind of worked out for them in the end to some degree. That was
the pattern of the whole show.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
If you don't see that, you weren't paying attention.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole point.
They kept getting away.
They just win every time.
And they were very smart. I'm sorry, but a few people that I want to really like remember. So the leader of the cartel, that was a really good antagonist. Mm-hmm. But his sister was terrifying. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying. Man, everyone acted so well in that show. They were all great. All of them.
She's like the standout.
Although, you could argue Wendy Bird.
Okay, no, you're right. You're right.
You could argue Wendy Bird.
I would say Wendy Bird was like over the course of the show, you start to be like, oh, okay, I see. But Ruth, the minute she stepped on screen, you were like, oh, we need to be concerned about her. When they took the money and then she was like, he met with her and her brothers.
Yeah.
in that, I don't know, like warehouse or
Yeah.
whatever. And it was like so clear, like, oh, she's the boss. Like, she's the boss of all of these guys. Her uncle, brothers, like, they are all looking at her.
She was very good.
But Wendy Bird might be more impressive over the long run of the show.
I think Wendy Bird started to fully win me over when they introduced her brother. Mm-hmm. And that story arc, that one got me.
Whew.
That one got me. Yeah.
I don't think I could ever rewatch that show because of that episode alone. That was so
sad.
painful.
It was very sad. At number 8, I gotta put in Peacemaker. I know you haven't watched it yet, but Usher, it is so funny and good. It's John Cena. Like, come on. And listen, I don't know how people feel about James Gunn, but he rarely misses.
Yeah.
Rarely misses, and he was in his bag with this one.
Okay.
I was also thoroughly impressed with John Cena's acting chops. Didn't think he had that kind of range in him, but I was very impressed.
He has to show range in that show?
Yeah, in a number of moments.
That's shocking to me. Okay.
It's not just a crude humor. It's there. And there are a few other things. I don't want to get too much into it.
Yeah.
I think you should give it a shot.
Okay.
But
I honestly forgot. I wanted to put that on the list. I honestly forgot about that show.
Yeah. Number 7, Severance.
7?
Yeah, I put it kind of low because of that reason we mentioned earlier on. There were some things did kind of indirectly get spoiled because I saw you watching certain scenes.
Got it.
And so I do kind of wish, and that kind of happened with Better Call Saul also. Like you Google something on like a character
and then something shows up
of like them dying, and then like, ugh. You can't like not remember it now. You can't force yourself to forget. And so that happened with Severance and with Better Call Saul. That's probably why they're a little bit lower. But I had to put them in my top 10 because I could see if I had not gotten it spoiled, oh my gosh. Yeah. At number 6, I have 2.
Okay.
So I put Better Call Saul.
Okay.
And I put Succession. Now,
I thought Succession would be a lot higher for you.
So this is where it gets a little bit tricky because this is where I was saying earlier, I feel like the film TV fanatic in me is telling me you need to put this higher. But I'm thinking about what was the emotional impact it had on me once the show season was done. Mm-hmm. And there were other shows where the season ending, the finale, weighed more on me, and that's why I had to be honest with myself about that ranking. But Succession is one of the best shows, top 3 shows out right now, and I think if you disagree with me, you are wrong. It is that good.
I don't disagree. I just
Better Call Saul. I mean, Vincent Gillian doesn't really miss when it comes to his TV shows. Breaking Bad obviously was revolutionary, arguably one of the best shows like ever. You know, definitely one of the most watched. Better Call Saul picked it right up. It really debunked the whole prequel notion. I mean, you could probably say that about House of the Dragon, but Better Call Saul kind of did it first, where they had a story to tell, and it wasn't one of those anticlimactic ones where it's like, well, we all know where it leads up to. The writing in Breaking Bad has to be praised here because it left so much questions unanswered that they could get filled with Better Call Saul.
But you didn't feel like it was incomplete.
No, you're getting the backstory of Saul Goodman, aka Jimmy McGill. You're getting the backstory of Mike. You're getting more context for Gustavo Fring. All of that is just so good. And they introduced some other characters that you tend to love as well.
Okay, so at number 10, I have this little show called Heartbreak High. The reason why I had to put it in my top 10 because, again, similarly to the reason why I put Sex Lives of College Girls in my honorable mentions, it's another, like, just very pure portrayal of teenage girlhood. And also, pure is maybe not the right word because a lot happens in the show. But basically, it's the story of, like, a friend breakup. Like, that's what kind of starts it all. So, like, instead of focusing, like, the focus, obviously, like, it's about teenage girls, there's crushes, there's boyfriends, etc. Yeah. But the heart of the show is, like, this friendship between these 2 teenage girls. And, like, so what you don't know what happened because it's told from the perspective of one of the characters, and she doesn't know why her best friend isn't talking to her. And so, like, the whole heart of the show is, like, their friendship and, like, her heartbreak over like losing this person in her life. It feels like a breakup story, but they're just two really close friends. I literally I binged that show overnight. Like, whoa. I started watching it and I just kept playing next episode until the next morning.
How many episodes were there?
I can't remember, but it was like, it took me all night. Like, I was up until like maybe 4 or 5 in the morning watching the show. Very good. It was very, very, very good. So
that's at your 10.
Yes, that's my 10th. At 9, I have Avenue 5. Avenue 5! I just feel like people need to talk about this show a lot more. That show is so funny. If you don't know, it's the show about a spaceship cruise, like in the like near future. You can like get on a cruise ship, but it's like in space, and then something happens and they get stuck in space for several years.
It's the guy from House, right?
Yes, it has Hugh Laurie is his name, I think. And he's like probably the only one that you would know. No, and it also has the guy from The Office.
Yeah.
Is Dan? Was that his name in The Office? The boss.
Wallace.
David Wallace was his name. But listen, it's just such an absurd humor.
It is very funny.
It's so absurd. You just really never know what's like things that you think they're not gonna do because it's just like so out there. They're like, oh no, we're gonna do it. It's absolutely hilarious. So that's at 9. Okay, at 8 I have Under the Banner of Heaven.
That's high. Wow. That's in top 10.
Yes.
Okay.
I just feel like that's one of the best limited series I've ever seen, personally. Mm-hmm. And that's saying a lot because limited series tend to be pretty good. Like, it's pretty rare that you have a limited series that's like not actually like amazing.
HBO ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the performances were so good. Like Andrew Garfield, I mean, he's always great, always. I just thought like his performance in this show, showing like that tension of like this your whole community, your whole, like basically the foundation of his life, his faith, family, his job, community, everything about his life was grounded in this religious community. And then the tension of having it just kind of crumble all beneath him. I thought that he portrayed that and how devastating that would be so well. To me, that was why I was watching. Like, it was also, of course, like the true crime aspect of it, of course, was very intriguing, and I was obviously watching for that too, and all the performances were really good. But it was Andrew Garfield and him portraying that detective and like what a difficult position he was in, and the way that they ended it too, with no resolution for him really, of just like he's just going to continue on, and like internally he'll just kind of live with this tension. I just thought that was so good.
You mentioned I was going to say Sam Worthington.
Sam Worthington was very, very good.
I was pulled in by everything about what his character was supposed to represent.
Yeah. So I had to put that in my top 10. I thought it was just really good. Like I was like telling other people, I was like, I told my parents like, you have to watch the show. I was like, everyone watch this. Okay, Ozark I have at number 7 because I feel like I'm not necessarily putting Ozark the final season at number 7 because we kind of watched it like in a short span of time.
Yeah, we binged through that thing.
We binged it and then we had to wait like maybe a couple months for the last season. So I feel like for me, it's like I'm putting the entire show at number 7.
Gotcha.
It's like I just feel like I can't separate it. Like we experienced it all at one time, and I just feel like, there's lots of drug cartel shows. There's a lot of them. But the level of dread that I experienced watching this show at various points, from like the first episode when the cartel shows up and they just murder all of those people next to him, and then they just carry that through, and you're just, I don't know, I just feel like they managed to make me so scared. And I just felt like that was really good.
Acting was phenomenal.
Acting was phenomenal. Really Wendy Bird, I feel like, might be one of the best written female characters that we've had in a while.
Yeah.
I just thought she was so good. And they paced it out so well, because at the beginning you're like, you're like, okay, there's definitely something there. There's like some edge there, you know? But then over time you start to learn like, oh, she knew about all of this from the beginning. Like she kind of co-signed it, was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. And then like when you start to see that like her motivations are very much like she wants to win at this game. Like she wants to be able to say like, I have dominated in this criminal space that we chose to enter, because she kind of gave up a lot of her career and her, for like her family. I just thought, I don't know, once you understood her character and her motivations, I just thought she was so phenomenal. And then number 6, I have Stranger Things 4. That's number 6 right here. That scene.
You run up the hill.
Yeah, I watched that. Like that, somebody put up like a clip of that scene like maybe 3 weeks ago, and I cried. Like I was watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
We're reaching top 5 right now.
Yes.
All right. So number 5, I'm putting in Atlanta.
Okay.
I know people are going to say, like, that's super high. Like, was Atlanta better than Better Call Saul? Was it better than Succession? Was it better than Severance? That's up for debate. I think I'm putting Atlanta at number 5 because of what it represents. Mm-hmm. Their commentary was very, very well done. And that was a kind of television show I had never experienced. Like, Twin Peaks was a little before my time, but Atlanta kind of reinvoked that.
Shows a lot?
Because there are a few episodes where the spirit feels very similar.
Twin Peaks, that first season.
Yeah, the respect I have for everyone involved in Atlanta is through the roof. And I got very sad the other day when I realized, oh, that show is done. That's not coming back. And I really fell in love with all of those characters, every single one of them. One episode, it could be straight horror, like Teddy Perkins. Other episodes, it could feel very much like a very Twin Peaks-esque. But then you'll just have, some of them will just be your straight comedy one. And then there's somewhere like, it'll feel like a rom-com. You'll have it all. And it doesn't feel like they are breaking the rules of their show. And I think the fact that you're able to do that is super impressive. At number 4, this is where it gets tough. I put Andor. Andor is the best Star Wars project since the original trilogy, period. End of discussion. Andor is better than Mandalorian. It's definitely better than Boba Fett. I love Boba Fett. He's my favorite character in Star Wars. It's better than Boba Fett. It's better than Obi-Wan. It's better than any of the prequels. It's better than Revenge of the Sith. Andor is better than Clone Wars. It's better than all of the sequels. I mean, I love Last Jedi. It's probably my favorite Star Wars movie. It's better than Last Jedi. Andor was phenomenal. I remember talking to one of my friends about Bad Batch, the animated show. I can't watch that thing no more.
No,
Andor raised the standard on what Star Wars could be. And so if you ever put anything out there that is that much lower in the standard, I have zero interest in wanting to watch that. I was not expecting to be that emotionally invested in some of those characters. Are you kidding me? When his mom gave that speech to the town, I was bawling. I had goosebumps. I was ready to go out there and fight, like that. It had been a while since I had that strong emotion evoked from Star Wars. That did show up a little bit when Luke showed up, but it still didn't land as hard as this one, because this was the first show we had that really showed, like you were saying, the weight of the Empire from just regular people. So I'm putting that at number 4. At number 3, I've got The Bear.
Okay.
That's one of the best TV shows I've ever watched.
Okay,
The intensity is there. The character development is there. There are emotions that will have you laughing, crying, on the edge of your seat. And a lot of it is just like the stress that comes from trying to run a food business in a restaurant. So I worked in catering when I was in college for like 3-4 years. And so that fast pace, I can kind of see it. Like I'm reminded of it. And They are not exaggerating how stressful those moments can be when you're trying to get it out. You're trying to move quick. Very well done. I think people involved in that were also involved in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. Jeremy Allen White is a phenomenal actor.
Oh, okay.
Hands down. And then they also had, I may butcher her name, Ayo Edebiri. She's a black woman.
Yeah, she was they hire her in the first episode.
Elite.
Yeah.
Apparently she just got casted in Thunderbolts, the next Marvel movie.
Oh, okay. I
So-
forgot that was something.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody say
She's
it.
also very good. I don't want to say too much about it because you're going to watch it, so I'll leave it there. This is where you might be a little surprised. At number 2 is House of the Dragon.
Okay. What?
I am glad to be back in the world of Westeros. Golly, that hole had been missing since that series finale, and no show as much as beautifully written as they were was able to fill that void. Where like I'm just kind of engulfed and consumed into that world, from the television shows to the reviews to the HBO podcasts to the theory videos to the breakdowns to the Twitter Discord. I missed all of that, especially because we've talked about this, in that streaming era where you can just binge. The fact that for just an hour everyone is watching the same thing, and then like the 2 hours following that everyone is talking about it online, and then the days after that everyone is reflecting on it, and then the day or two right before everyone's got their ideas of like, what do we think is going to happen. The acting in that show was incredible. I was not expecting to have that emotional reaction in some of those scenes. That episode 8 was one of the best Game of Thrones
Which one
episodes
is
ever.
that's the dinner?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very good. And where he goes up and dies afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
When he walks down the throne, the scene where just for that brief
A lot happened
moment,
in that episode.
just for that brief moment, everyone was good. And Viserys had this look on his face where he was like, I did it. And it's sad because like, like from the viewer, it's not going to go that way. But like in the previous episode, he had that moment where he was talking to Lord Strong, his hand, about like, what if I had been tested? Because he's even starting to think like I was a weak king. And when he was tested, like, I don't know, he kind of came through. I don't think he was right for the time. Like, he was a lot more progressive than other kings would have been. Like, I mean, he chose Rhaenyra. He was super supportive of her activities, gave her like her plan tea. She's like drinking that. I loved Alicent. I know people are going to hate on that. I don't think I'm Team Green, but I love Alicent Hightower. I love the actress. Everyone is phenomenal in that show. But that nigga Daemon, woo, I'm with him. I know he's a terrible person, but every time he's on the screen, I'm locked in.
It's
locked
Matt Smith.
in. That's what it is. Yeah, Matt Smith is phenomenal. So that's at number 2.
Okay.
At number 1, I put Stranger Things.
Oh, I was trying to think. I was like, what? Because I was like, I know our top 5 are going to be similar. Okay.
Yeah. At number 1, I put Stranger Things. I was bawling my eyes out at several moments in that last season. Season 4, I think. And this is where it got tricky with how I'm assessing, because there are shows that I think you could argue objectively the craft was done better, right? Like you could say like, is the writing in Succession better than Stranger Things? Yes. Is the writing in Better Call Saul better than Stranger Things? You could argue that. I would even argue the writing in Andor is probably better than House of the Dragon. But I'm in love with those characters.
Yeah.
And the emotional experience is what I'm always thinking about. Not just like, oh, was that, camera angle done well? I'm not always thinking about that. I'm thinking about the characters, the story, and what that does for me as a viewer. That scene with Max was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I've just gone back on YouTube and just watched it.
Yeah.
And then when they revamped the song, when they Kate Bush's song in the finale, incredible. They also took, I think, Journey's Separate World song, and they did in the trailer, but they brought it in the show as well. The music is just incredible in that show. The CGI was incredible. I'm all in on Stranger Things. I don't know if it will stay at my number 1. when all of these new seasons come in, I think at some point Andor and House of the Dragon is going to surpass it. But I have to just think, like, part of it was Stranger Things was gone for so long. It came like 2.5 years, and I was a little nervous that, like, it wouldn't be able to meet back its hype, because it did slow down a little bit. And
I would say 2 it slowed down, 3 it came back up.
Yeah. And then it's streaming, right? So after 2 weeks, no one's really talking about it anymore, and that kind of sucks, because I think if Stranger Things was a weekly release, its numbers would rival things like House of the Dragon.
I think so too.
It is that popular, but I don't know if everyone in pop culture has enough time to process and digest it the way that House of the Dragon was. For like 2.5 months. Everyone was watching that show.
Yeah. Okay, so number 5 for me is Abbott Elementary.
Oh. Yo.
I feel like he forgot.
I think you just ruined my list.
When you didn't have it, I was like, I'm pretty sure he forgot about it.
Yo, my list is ruined. Oh, no.
Yeah, Abbott Elementary is number 5 for me. I just feel like a good comedy that just comes on regular TV that you can just always count on midweek, a little pick-me-up. Great characters, great comedic timing, great jokes. Also, I'm a teacher, so it's also very relatable.
Harder,
yeah. That had to be. And it's all done by a black woman.
It's so good.
And you just bring in all of these beloved people. Like, the casting is just so right. Like, she just knows. And you know she's thinking of black people when she does it, too.
Yes.
Like, bringing in Cheryl Lee Ralph.
Come on.
Bringing in Everybody Hates Chris.
Tyler James
Williams.
Yeah.
I just feel like, and then even like all of her guest stars.
Wait. Lisa Ann Walters, Parent Trap.
Beloved, yes. It's just casting is perfect. The kids are always so funny. And
Jacob,
Jacob is so funny. I'm sorry, he might be my favorite. He might be the funniest one on the show to me. Because it's like...
Over Ava?
Maybe not. I honestly
Ava
forgot.
is chaotic.
Ava is. But it's just like, he's just such a... Like, people like Jacob. Like, know them in real life. That just take themselves so seriously. They are so well-intentioned.
That podcast episode. Oh my God.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was honestly like... I was laughing at him, but I was also laughing at me because me and him listened to all the same podcasts. They were like The Daily, This American Life, Sarah Koenig, Ira Glass. I was Michael Barbara. I was like, yeah, these are the voices of my commute. Like, this is what I listen to every day. So I just feel like they're handling they're slowly adding depth to the characters as we get just little hints of their backstory. I just feel like that's so good. I feel like other comedies have done that a little bit. Like, I think The Office maybe did that a little bit with some, like, you kind of got to know a little bit more about Michael Scott, like, and like what drove him. And, he became he was still kind of like a joke, but he also became more of like I kind of understand you better as a character. Yeah. But like a lot of the other characters in the show, you didn't really get that. Like, who knows what's going on with Creed and like all Stanley and like all the other people in The Office, Yeah. But I feel like they're doing this for all of the characters. Like, you're learning more about Tyler James Williams, Mr. Eddie. You're learning more about Quinta's character and like her family. Like, everybody is getting some more layers, and I'm very excited. And also the pacing of this love story is
with her and
it's excruciating,
Gregory.
but it's done well.
This is, again, I mean, we've talked about this. If you wanted to provide a real criticism toward binging, which, I mean, we're both not like huge fans of it. Like, we'll watch it because it's there. You could look to like sitcoms as the perfect way as to why it should not be necessary, because sitcoms are supposed to be 30 minutes. You sit down and you watch it and you just enjoy it. If you're binging it, sometimes you can't stay in a laughing mood for like 6 hours.
Yeah, you're gonna tune out. You're gonna start scrolling.
Exactly. You're pulling out your phone. You're not paying attention. You're doing other things. It's just on in the background. And for like a show like this, you got to really be tuned in, because it's those little moments.
Yes, it's just the little looks at the camera.
Yes.
Those little jokes that like they say it, and then like a second later you're like, what did they just say? Yes. So that's my number 5. Number 4 is Severance.
All right.
When I first watched Severance, it was another moment for me where I was like, where are the people watching this? I was like, how come no one's talking about this show? I felt like it wasn't enough of a conversation. I think it's because it's an Apple TV Plus show.
That's probably why.
It's just harder for those shows to have as much reach, I feel like.
In due time, though, I would argue.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I think it's probably why. But when I was watching that, I was like, number 1, this is a completely original concept. Like, I can't think of anything that's done something like this. Like, that idea of, like, your brain, it's like, it's not a clone. It's not like like, they're handling the same questions of, like, personhood and, like, what makes a person, etc. But they're doing it in a completely new way, and it's a very American way too, because of like our relationship to work and work culture and work-life balance. Yes. I was watching every episode just like, I need to talk to somebody about this show. I was like, where do I go to discuss this? It was so good. I don't want to say a lot. I don't know if people have like watched it or not, but there was just a couple moments where like it really hits like what the consequences of severance actually are, what that would actually mean. So phenomenal. And then the cliffhanger ending, I'm like, when is it coming back?
Oh,
I really need.
My gosh. I'm glad you saw my reaction when I watched it, because I watched it after you. Mm-hmm. I was blown away.
Yes.
Very mad when I saw the credits show up on the screen too.
Yep. Very good. So that's my number 4. My number 3 is House of the Dragon. My top 3, I was having a tough time.
It's always going to be hard.
Yeah. But House of the Dragon, listen, you give me a character with well-written women and I'm going to have a good time. Mm-hmm. Okay? Same as you, like Alicent Hightower. I have been defending Alicent Hightower since the beginning.
Since day one.
To this day. Okay, I understand it's probably going to get harder for me to do that as the show goes on. Even towards the end of this season, I was like, okay, maybe I need to chill on this a little bit. What are you doing? But she's still my favorite. I feel like because I liked her early on, it's like I'm not interpreting her actions the same way other people are.
You're admitting your bias.
Yes, but I just feel like, well, she's such a well-written character, and all the complaints that people have about the way that they've written her character, I don't understand. I just feel like everything that they have done to round out her motivations and her like the trauma that she's been through, I just feel like all of it makes so much sense. And it's like even when she does things that are like not great, I just have an underlying level of like sort of respect and empathy for her. I think that moment when she hears what Viserys says on his deathbed, I think she probably knows that that's probably not what he meant.
But that's not bad writing.
I don't think it's bad writing at all. I think it adds to I think it makes the writing better. I think the entire point about her character is that she is a person that was very early on in her life, like you said, she was impressed upon very heavily by her dad with a lot of things that didn't turn out to be true. Yeah. But also she was taught very early on that like what her purpose is. That like her purpose in their universe essentially as a woman is like putting her body on the line for the good of the realm. Like that's literally what happened. Like it wasn't like the purpose of her marrying Viserys was like strictly for her to bear his kids. Like that was it.
Because she was told a boy would keep the realm secure.
Right. And I feel like a lot of her freedom was taken, and also it ruined her relationship. Like it ruined her friendship. Like even her and Viserys, I feel like their whole relationship is just kind of weird and twisted, because he probably would have been, I don't know, maybe more like an uncle type figure or something before, and now it's like weird. I don't know.
And he didn't really love her either.
No, he didn't.
He never got over his wife.
No, yeah, and she knows that. I don't know, and so I just feel like a lot of her actions are understandable. They're not necessarily right, but I think I understand them. Like, I don't necessarily interpret everything that she does, even when it's like, I don't know, sis, like maybe that, like that whole the whole scene after the kids, after they gouged out his eye, Amond, is that his name? Mm-hmm. After they gouged out his eye, and then like she almost like stabs the child. Like bad, not good. That is not good. Obviously, it's not good. Okay. But the frustration and what she was saying to Rhaenyra, I was like, I understand, because that whole conversation that she had, if I'm remembering correctly, I need to rewatch it, but I feel like I remember there being some sort of implication of like the freedom that Rhaenyra has had to like basically like do everything that she wants.
Pick her own spouse.
Yeah.
She can sleep around if she wants to, which none of those things are bad, but Alicent
But it's
never
like,
had
right.
that.
Like, people, I don't think that Alicent is slut shaming. Okay? I don't necessarily think it's like she has like, maybe part of it is because she is in that whole religion. But I think a lot of it is not necessarily like women should not do these things. I think more of it is like you're being given the opportunity to do all of these things, and you're not like none of the consequences are coming back to you. It's coming back to me. She's like, I am having to sacrifice all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting anything out of it. And you are getting to do everything that you want and get everything that, like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like I understand. I mean,
it's true. She had her sexual encounter with Daemon. Rhaenyra had her sexual encounter with Daemon, and Viserys is mad, but like she still stays his heir. Mm-hmm. He gives her, her plan T, which I'm implied that like that's just her normal usage now, because like she didn't fully sleep with Daemon, but she did sleep with Harwin Strong.
I don't know if this is a show that is meant to be like, you're bad, you're good. Like, mm-hmm. I feel people are watching it like that, and I don't think that's the point. I think it's like Rhaenyra is a genuinely good person, I think. I think she'll be a really good ruler, and I think she also is that way because she benefited from having a parent who sort of nurtured that in her.
Yeah.
And Alicent had the opposite of that. Like, she was used by her father
just a tool
versus being valued and loved.
Yeah.
And that's what they pass on to their kids. So now all of Alicent's kids are like messed up because it's like it's a trauma thing. Like, everybody's just inheriting the same, you know?
The other thing that I loved about House of Dragon was the Velaryons changing the directors. They chose to change their race to black. I know some people were like, oh, well, they have to race swap. But we've kind of talked about how that made the story like way more compelling for a number of reasons. Like, one, those kids did not look like Targaryens, not because of their white hair, but because they were literally black.
Those are not mixed kids.
They were not. They were not black.
Those are not mixed children.
Right. So that plays more into, I thought, was an interesting story angle, which was if King Viserys says those boys are true-born Valyrian, as the king, his word is law. But then you still have this noble house that's like, no, that's not how we can run things, because you're sort of erasing our cultural identity here, which is that they're not Valyrian. Like, they're not, they don't have, you know what I mean? I mean, even Lucerys in the finale, he was like, I get seasick the second I get to the harbor. Like, them boys are not no, like, Valyrian. You know what I mean? Like, these are strong boys.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a good place where if you're intentional enough, you can find room to be inclusive. And it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah, it felt like it made sense. You're right. It added a layer that I feel like, was necessary. Okay, number 2 is Yellow Jackets.
Oh. You are destroying my list right now, Esther.
Listen. This is another show that when I was watching it, I was like, where is the public discourse? There's just too many shows. There's just too many shows. And so, but there's certain shows that I feel like should get that attention and that shine like in the same way that like Stranger Things, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones get, and Yellow Jackets was one of those. Like, I remember when I was watching it and I was trying to go online and find like YouTube videos with like theories like how you could do with like Game of Thrones and stuff, and there was basically nothing. Like, there just wasn't that many there. There was a few, but like none of the main creators that we watch were like doing that. High school girls soccer team, they're going to nationals, and the premise is a lot like Lost, kind of like their plane crashes and they get stranded like somewhere. I don't even know if we really know where they're stranded, like in some forest. And but it's just so much more. Think like Lord of the Flies, like those types of elements. Like, they sort of start to build like this whole like culture. Like, they're there for several months. I can't remember how long, but there's just so many theories that you can that can be built around this show. There's so much that hasn't been explained. There's like, is there something supernatural going on? Is there not? Like, we don't know. And once again, it's essentially an entire female cast. There's a couple boys. There's like there's one coach and like two teenage boys, like with the coach's sons that are on the plane with them. But the entire cast is women, teenage girls, and again, very well written, very well fleshed out. The teenage girl dynamics are teenage girling in this like very heightened scenario. I just thought it was so phenomenal. I'm very excited for the next season.
Man, you are butchering my top 10 right now.
Sorry.
Because Yellow Jack, I mean, I don't know if where it would go. At the very least, bottom or honorable mention, but that's on me for not remembering.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that show since I watched it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Slow Horses, I forgot to put Slow Horses. Slow Horse would probably have to go tied with Ozark at 7. I forgot to include that. It's a very good time.
I was going to say, would that be top 5? But
no, I don't think I could put it top 5. But I finished it. I watched both seasons. It's a very good spy thriller. Gotcha. Very good. The little spin of like they're all kind of bad at their jobs, it does a lot. It does a lot to make it different. Because like they never, even when they succeed, they never really like... It's like they happen to succeed, but like they make
just by chance.
Like they kind of bumble through it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. It's kinda funny, but
did
it's
you
like,
watch Chuck?
I didn't. It's one of those. Yeah.
Well, that sort of reminded me. It was just like, come on, bro. What kind of luck do you have right now? But
yeah. Okay, and my number 1 is Andor.
All right, I'm not mad at that.
My number 1 is Andor.
I'm not mad at that.
I've been watching Star Wars since I was a kid. Like, I remember my dad sat me down and we watched the originals, obviously, and then we watched the first 2 prequels, and then the 3rd prequel came out in theaters, and that's the first PG-13 movie I ever saw in theaters.
Wait, which one?
The 3rd prequel.
Your first PG-13 movie experience was Revenge of the Sith?
Yes.
I'm very jealous of you.
Yeah, I watched that in theaters.
Because that is a good-ass movie,
yo.
Yeah,
it was a good time. Now, I will say, as I've gotten older, Star Wars has become more of like it's fun, but like I don't take it that seriously. You know, like when I would see like people talking about, like debating about all these Star Wars movies and being upset, I'd be like, I don't know, was Star Wars ever really that serious? Like, let's be honest, like it's kind of always been. But I mean, like as a franchise, like it's kind of goofy. You know, that's kind of its whole thing. Like I remember when
the humor's thing.
When what was the first one of the last 3 that came out? The
Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. When The Force Awakens came out, I remember being in the theaters like, oh, they got the tone just right. You know, like it's kind of kooky, kind of corny still, you know. It still has like good action elements, like it's still a fun time, you know. But like it's still just like kind of fun, right? That's how I looked at Star Wars as an adult. I was like, I enjoy it. I'm not taking it that seriously, though. And then Andor happened. And I just feel like I saw somebody online say that Andor is the most Star Wars that Star Wars has ever been, and that is the best way to describe it. It's like it takes all of the elements of Star Wars it takes all the best elements of Star Wars and it puts them to the forefront, which yes. I don't think is what all of the Star Wars projects do. Because I feel like the best elements of Star Wars is that political conflict that, to me, maybe it's also because I first watched them as a kid, but like to me that was very much in the background when I was watching them. Like when I was watching those movies as a kid, I was like, this is a story about Luke Skywalker and his sister. I was like, that's what these movies are about, you know, like defeating this one bad guy. Like that's how it felt watching them as a kid. So, and that's kind of how, even as I've gotten older, I can't really shake that because I just feel like that's how they push the story to us. It's like there's a lot of things happening, but like the focus doesn't always showcase that of like what the actual impacts would be of like having a galactic empire like this. And Andor just does it so well. They ground it. It feels much more relatable, much more human. Even like I was thinking about this, like even like the worlds that they chose to build, it feels much less space-like, honestly. There's a lot less aliens when you think about it. Like we didn't really see that many aliens in this show. It was a lot more humans, and which I think was helpful for the message that they were trying to get across, because it felt like I know exactly like what this is representing. So I just feel like they did such a good job of grounding the story and making it so that you could actually make the comparisons that I think George Lucas was trying to make.
Yeah.
Like you could actually take the story of the Empire and their military and and you could compare it to the real world and see the equivalencies of like what power structure does this represent? Like making Star Troopers feel like a police force was a very intentional choice, and they've never done that.
No.
They've just sort of felt like bumbling, like soldier, like, you know, like, oh, we have to get through these guys, but it's going to be fine. Like, we know, every time a stormtrooper shows up in Star Wars,
their aim is horrible.
You're going to be fine. It's like, they're not even scary, like, you're going to be fine. But in this one, when they made them like, oh no, like, because that is how they would function. Like, they are law enforcement. That is exactly what they would be doing. That's how it would feel if you were living in this world. It was just so well done. The writing, the pacing, I thought was perfect. Like the two halves, I thought were so good. Like that first half building up to the heist. And then I was like, is that going to be the season finale? And then we found out that there was 12 episodes. And I was like, so where are we taking it next? And then the prison and it was just so good. It was just...
It was a Star Wars content I don't think we knew we needed.
Yes.
I don't think we knew how much we needed Andor in Star Wars to show us what Star Wars was supposed to be and what Star Wars could be.
Yes.
After so long after the originals came out. So.
And it wasn't, I mean, when I first saw the trailer for Andor, I was like, okay, this is going to be different. But... like, I knew the tone and stuff was going to be different. But I still was expecting it to be a little bit more like, I thought it was going to be much more focused on Andor, the character and his story. And it turned out to be a lot bigger than that, which I like. It's like, he's kind of just a vessel that they're using to tell a much bigger story about all of the players in this, like at the beginning of the rebellion and all of that, which... I don't know. Yes. So that's number one for me.
Great time. So those are our lists. We'd love to hear from you all. What do you think about our list? And just know that this is ours, so we don't really care what you have to say. But we'd love to hear about what your top 10 list looked like for the year of 2022. And I guess at some point we could also start talking about what we're hyped about for 2023 later on. But with that, thank you all again. See you next time.